Hello there, and welcome back. Silksong is out. This should be news to nobody by this point. I was working on an area ranking, but decided to make this video instead because I have much more passionate emotions about the boss fights, good and bad. These rankings are based on how enjoyable the boss is, both on a first playthrough and on repeat playthroughs, the visual and audio of the fight, and just how much I generally like them. Unlike the past and future area rankings, they will not receive specific scores in these categories. I trust your ability to infer things. I would also like to point out that while it is okay to have your own opinions, none of these opinions matter until you make your own video. If you want to scream at me because I ranked a boss you really hate high on my list, don't do it in the comments. As well, only bosses with name tags will count, meaning that things such as the Big Flea, Craggler, and Voided enemies will not count. With that being said, we start in F tier. These are the bosses where if they were removed from Silksong, it would be a better game. Number 46, Savage Beastfly 1. God, the first Savage Beastfly fight fucking sucks, and I beat it in less than 5 attempts on my first playthrough. Those 5 attempts were still the most miserable minutes of my life, though. Savage Beastfly has a random and extremely obstructive enemy spawns in a small arena, a dive that only kills enemies when it feels like it, and a rush attack that is completely unpredictable. The design is boring, the background is boring, the music is just damn decisive battle, which makes sense because this is a decisive battle between my wall and my controller. Boss genuinely belongs in the dumpster. Number 45, Pale Stag. Hey, remember No Eyes from the first game? Remember how they had a decent atmosphere and was everywhere else? Yeah, let's do the same thing again, but this time it's a deer. Pale Stag is a Tom and Jerry chase with projectiles, not a boss. The only reason this boring slog of a fight places higher than Savage Beastfly 1 is because it only has one attack for me to dislike, and a decent design. God, I can't wait for the good bosses. Number 44, Savage Beastfly 2. Wow, it really took no time at all for the second one, huh? Savage Beastfly 2 places above the first one because the enemies are less annoying, and reusing the fourth course as arena reminded me of a good boss. I have no more words. Besides, I might talk for quite a bit on the next one, so I gotta save my breath. Number 43, Grohl the Great. Grohl the goddamn great. What is there to say about Grohl that has not already been said? He's the boss of Biowater, so of course he would be bad, and to be honest, in a vacuum, the Grohl fight itself is not that bad. In a vacuum. During the game, you are not playing the fight in a vacuum. You have to go through the most grueling run back in the game, and if you didn't find the secret bench, just turn your device off. Then, once you actually get to the arena, you have to do a gauntlet with some of the worst enemies in the game. But again, all of this has already been repeated to death. I'm just adding water to the ocean. Next, number 42, Plasmified Zango. I really hope the Sea of Sorrow DLC introduces a good Plasmium boss, because Plasmified Zango is Plasmium's only current figure of interest. He's a gimmick boss that recovers HP. You can have a decent encounter that is barely a boss fight if you bring the needle file from the quest, or you can have a really slow bad boss if you don't. Either way, once you get it done with, you will immediately forget about it. Number 41, Lost Garment. Oh my god, a boss I can genuinely compliment. Took long enough. Lost Garment is one of the most emotionally impacting fights in the game. All across Farloom, this same story is playing out, of somebody's friends being lost to the void. A whole kingdom getting destroyed is a statistic. A friend being lost is a real blow. It's a shame the rest of the fight is just Garment, but slow and with annoying projectiles. Lost Garment could have been great, if only the fight itself matched the emotional impact. Now that we are done with that misery, we move on to D tier. These bosses are still bad, but I don't actively dread refighting them. Number 40, Gur the Outcast. Gur the Outcast spends most of the fight throwing around traps and preventing you from hitting him. As I explained in the tier transition, it's not actively terrible, but I would definitely not say that Gur is good. His lead up is okay, and his design is alright, but the fight is very slow and monotonous. Number 39, Broodmother. I would like to give Broodmother an award. The most overhated award. Broodmother is bad, but I would not say she is one of the worst bosses in the game. Both the arena beforehand and her enemy spawns are easy, and none of her attacks are all that hard. She's mostly just a worse Gruzmother. Does this mean she's a good boss if she's overhated? No, she's still just less than I think most people make her out to be. Number 38, The Unraveled. The Unraveled is a slow fight, and the conductor's hitboxes are huge. The fact they gave this fight a silk heart I guess makes it worth fighting, but it's still not something I look forward to. I do have a genuine compliment for this one, however, as the lore and aesthetics of the boss are quite good. The conductor looks alright, and the arena with all the bodies on the floor is sick. The boss also has a great custom theme made by a strawberry flavored demon, so check that out. Number 37, Voltverm. Voltverm is like if you could always damage Umu, which makes it less difficult, but also less boring. Voltverm's attacks look great, so does the whole of Voltnest, but the attacks, while they look good, are slow and very easy to dodge. Voltverm doesn't have many flaws other than being kinda easy and boring, but it also has very few real positives. Number 36, Summoned Savior. Summoned Savior was one of the last bosses I fought, as it's only accessible in Steel Soul mode. Summoned Savior is basically just a void mass that is slightly stronger and can slowly move. It has literally no music, boring attacks, but a cool quest to access it. Overall, still not very good. Number 35, Father of the Flame. Father of the Flame is the fluke marm of Silksong and is also almost in 34th place, which is a really funny coincidence. Father of the Flame certainly has a unique fight, although not necessarily a fun fight. It's basically just a pogo simulator with added projectiles. Father of the Flame has a very intimidating design, but the fact that for the first half of the fight it literally has one attack definitely keeps it low on the list. This fight does get slightly better in the second phase, but not enough to save it from a low placement. Number 34, Moss Mother. Moss Mother is a pretty good boss as a tutorial boss, but it is not great everywhere else. Moss Mother's alright on your first playthrough, but boring and pathetically easy on repeat playthroughs. There's also the Voided Moss Mother in Act 3, but that's also really easy, especially considering the point in the game it's at. Some regular enemies are far more difficult than Moss Mother, which I feel perfectly summarizes this fight. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to C tier. These are the bosses that are, hold your applause, not bad. They're still only okay, but we're finally leaving the pits of bad bosses and moving on to things that I have mostly neutral opinions about. Number 33, Garmin and Zaza. Take what I said about Moss Mother being pathetically easy and make it funny because the boss has an actual character. There are numerous enemies far more difficult than Garmin and Zaza, and although they are technically a boss, they don't really feel like one. Garmin is a great character, and it being a duel similar to Chakra is quite fun, but these two are still so insanely easy it's not even funny. Number 32, Bell Eater. While Bell Eater is great on a first playthrough, as it serves as a crazy entry into Act 3, it suffers on repeat playthroughs. The design in the arena are alright, the music is just Bell Beast's theme, and its attacks are pretty annoying. This is the only boss where the boss's butt is a separate enemy, and I am unsure whether to count that as a positive or negative. Either way, on repeat playthroughs, Bell Eater is just an annoying roadblock before going to the abyss. Number 31, Moss Mother Duo. This boss is, honest to God, one of the funniest to me. The Moss Mother Duo caused me to laugh out loud for a good 15 seconds, and I don't know why. It's just Moss Mother, but slightly harder, although it does give a decent reward for beating it. Other than that, it's a pretty basic refight, so not much to say about it. Number 30, Pinstress. Pinstress, as the only boss of Mount Fae, my favorite area in the game, was a complete letdown. They are originally an NPC, only becoming a boss in Act 3, and they are an alright but not special NPC with some minor lore. The fight itself is decent while the Pinstress is on the ground, but she spends most of the time in the air, projectile spamming, so the actual fun part of the fight is only a small chunk. If Pinstress only occasionally went into the air, like the tall craw, instead of being mostly in the air, like the squat craw, this fight would be much better. Number 29, Skull Tyrant. Skull Tyrant, despite being one of the very few bosses to kill an NPC in front of your eyes, is not very memorable. They're pretty easy and have a few basic attacks. I would say there's not anything wrong about Skull Tyrant, but not much good about them either. Them destroying Bone Bottom is for sure surprising on a first playthrough, but on repeat playthroughs it just means you lose access to the bench for a bit. Not a bad boss, but not a good one either. Number 28, Great Conch Flies. The Great Conch Flies are the first double boss to appear on this list, and they are by far the lamest. Despite being all the way up in Blasted Steps, they provide little challenge, even compared to bosses as early as Morwing and Greymoor. Most of the things that make the Great Conchflies good make Raging Conchfly much better, so I will mention those when we get to Raging Conchfly. I will say the amount of time you spend not being able to hit them is a bit much, and but it does not drag the fight down very far. Number 27, Watcher at the Edge. Watcher at the Edge is basically a souped up version of the regular Coral Warrior guys, but the atmosphere in this fight is top notch. The blowing sand, dark background, and overall vibe of the fight is immaculate. Shame the Watcher itself is not very interesting. I can imagine someone finding this guy without a guide would be hyped, but he's so hidden, I personally never found him naturally. Number 26, Bellbeast. Bellbeast is the second boss in the game, and spends most of the game taking you from place to place, acting as Silksong's last stag. Bellbeast is a great character, but an alright boss. They're pretty easy, and the phase transition is somewhat slow and boring, but this is overall a fine fight with not much wrong. Number 25, Lace 1. Lace 1, the Deep Docks version, is pretty fun. Please note that fun bosses are not great bosses, and great bosses are not always fun bosses, evidenced by the fact that Phantom has not been ranked yet. Lace 1 is a fast and entertaining fight, but very easy. It makes sense due to how early you fight her, but considering Lace 2 is just the fun part of Lace 1 but more difficult, it's very hard to rank Lace 1 that high. Number 24, Morwing. Morwing, in my opinion, is the first real difficulty spike. Coming off of Moss Mother through 4th Chorus, you've only really fought easy bosses so far. Then Morwing comes along and curb stomps you to show you that the weak will not make it far through this game. Morwing is a pretty good fight, but sometimes a bit unpredictable, and as fun as Garmin and Zaza are, they really don't do much in this fight. Morwing is also the number 1 op of my stepbrother, but his opinions don't matter. He's not going to see this video anyways. Number 23, Clover Dancers. And now, we have the biggest refight downgrade in the game. Most of the refights are about equal, if not better than the original version, which is true for Conchflies, Lace, and hell, even Savage Beastfly. But Clover Dancers, while being more difficult than the Cogwork Dancers, remove everything fun from that fight. The last and most important phase is gone, the music is not as good, and the only real positive is the central spin attack as an actual threat. Overall, very disappointing, but still a decent boss in a vacuum. Moving out of C tier, we arrive in B tier. These are the bosses that I have mostly positive feelings about, but still have flaws or just not big standouts. Number 22, 4th Chorus. The 4th Chorus is the 4th boss in the game, and once you learn the fight, it's easy as piss. You can skip the final phase using the secret technique of Boulder, and its attacks are somehow slower than the False Knights. It's cool to see how it's able to destroy the floor, and the attacks, while pathetically slow, are good at teaching you how to use the Drifter's Cloak. Number 21, Sister Splinter. Sister Splinter could have been a pretty good boss, if not for how annoying the enemy ads are. The vines restricting the arena and claw bash attacks are both cool, but the spinning leaf enemies drag this fight down so much. This is one of the best sounding fights, as the music, also used in several other bosses where it's less noticeable, is pretty good, and everything you hit has nice leaf crunchy sound effects. Still, if only this fight removed most of the ads, it'd be pretty good. Hey, on the topic of ads, number 20, Crawfather. Crawfather loves ads. That's what the whole boss is built around. Despite the brutal gauntlet before the fight and summoning some decently annoying enemies, I think that because of how much less range and mobility the father himself has, the ads work much better in this fight. The fight's still not great, the gauntlet is brutal, and enemy ads are almost always, please put an asterisk on the almost, always bad. Number 19, Phantom. I really, really, really wanted to put Phantom in last place, but I held back and gave them an honest spot. Phantom is objectively a good boss. I just really hate them. First, I'll give some praise. The music is a banger, the ending parry scene is cool, and the atmosphere of the fight is very nice. Now for my negatives. Phantom is so slow. They take forever to do anything. Their design is, not to be harsh, pretty ugly. They fail both as a dramatic end to Act 1 like Last Judge, and as a quick and nimble opponent like the Lace fights. Again, Phantom is objectively a good boss. I just really don't like them. Number 18. Disgraced Chef Lugoli. Disgraced Chef Lugoli should have been bad, as the only boss that directly uses muck maggots in their attacks, but I actually quite like them. The muck maggot attacks feel fair, and how can you hate the absolute wedding cake Lugoli has backed up in their trunk? Now, they do still use muck maggots, which deserve to burn in the pits of Tartarus, so Lugoli can't place that high, but I think that the middle of B tier is a fair spot. Number 17. Grandmother Silk. Besides the Clover Dancers, Grandmother Silk is the biggest letdown. The bosses that end Act 1 and Act 3, ignoring Phantom, are really good caps to big portions of the game. Grandmother Silk excels in being threatening and flops in actually threatening you. Even though she is one of the very few bosses to be able to do triple damage, she is really easy. Grandmother Silk obviously has good lore, and the difficulty can be partially excused for the cursed ending, but it is still lame for the point in the game she's at. Number 16. Four Brothers Cygnus and Gron. If Phantom was an objectively good boss that I hate, the Four Brothers are the opposite. An objectively mediocre boss that I love. Seeing Gron before the fight and then the shock of him coming back at the start of the second phase, the scripted enemy adds not subtracting much, and the fact that it's a double boss with two different enemies instead of clones all adds up to a mediocre boss, but such a damn fun time. Keep being awesome, Cygnus and Gron. Number 15. Nyleth. Literally 2 entries later, we have a big boss that is worse than a smaller swordsman fought directly before them. Nyleth is one of the most unique fights in the game, with most of the time there being literally no floor. Nyleth feels more like a platforming segment than a boss, and honestly they work really well in that way. They're still decently easy, and have the least lore of the 3, 4 old hearts. Number 14. Chakra. Chakra is the only fight in the game where your movement abilities are worse than your opponent's. She's also the only fight that you can do repeatedly, and one of 2 fights, along with Garmin and Zaza, to be friendly duels. Chakra's fight is built around not maneuvering the boss, but instead waiting for the boss to mess up. Overall decently fun, but has a meh arena and is not too visually impressive. Number 13. Second Sentinel. Hey look, 2 NPC bosses back to back. Second Sentinel feels like if they took Pinstress, but removed the bad part, which is actually exactly what they did in the lore. Second Sentinel only misses out on A tier due to the fight staying pretty much the same the whole time. Once you learn their basic attacks, you've learned the fight. Other than that, Second Sentinel is pretty good. Number 12. Raging Conchfly. Remember when I told you to put an asterisk in almost always bad back in Crawfather? Yeah, here's where that comes into play. The enemy adds in Raging Conchfly are great. They don't get in the way of the fight, instead complementing the Raging Conchfly's attacks. This is a fight that proves not only enemy adds can be used well, but that just because the original fight is extremely mediocre does not mean that the refight has to be. Now, we get to the big leagues. These bosses, all the way up in A tier, are truly good bosses. At this point, just because one boss ranks below another does not mean that it is a worse boss. It just means that the other one is better. I have pretty few complaints. Number 11, Cogwork Dancers. The Cogwork Dancers are better than their refight in pretty much every way. They may be easier, but almost everything else about the fight is better. The fourth phase is a brutal subversion of the expectations for double bosses, and the music is one of the best themes in the game. The fight starts pretty slow, but the third phase is a good deal of fun. Overall, very solid boss with not many valid critiques. Number 10, Trobio. Trobio! I'm sorry. Trobio is a very fun boss. The fight can take a little while, as Trobio loves to be in places where you can't hit him, but every moment Trobio is on screen is fun and energetic. While the tornado attack can be a little unpredictable, once you learn it, it's fine, and all of his other attacks are great from the get-go. Trobio only really suffers in one regard, that being his minuscule lore. Number 9, Crest King Khan. Crest King Khan, despite being the easiest of the old hearts, is still quite good. I think that it's perfectly fair that he is the easiest, as the road to get to him is anything but easy. His attacks are pretty slow, but cover large portions of the arena, and it definitely feels like an area control boss, which is one of my favorite types of bosses. Just wait for number 3. While Khan's design is a little lacking, the arena is gorgeous, and I quite like his theme. Number 8. Oh boy. This one's going to make people mad, so get ready for a hot take. Number 8, First Sinner. I like Widow more than First Sinner. I know. Crazy. But, if you can just hear me out, I will explain why that is. First off, while First Sinner has more lore impact, Widow has far more story impact. The reward for beating First Sinner is kinda lame, just being one of the worst Silk skills. Second, I feel like the bells in the Widow fight are much more interesting projectiles than First Sinner's Silk Spears. Third, and last but not least, the heal is really annoying. First Sinner is still one of the best bosses. 8th place is nothing to scoff at, but I do feel like Widow is overall the better Weaver fight. Number 7, Lace 2. Lace 2, the one in the cradle, is everything that the original Lace fight was, and more. She is really fast, only outpaced by Chakra and the third Lace fight, and her attacks come out really quickly. Basically, take all of the praise I gave for the original Lace fight and remove the complaint about it being too easy. That is what this Lace fight is. One more thing, I do really like the dialogue after the fight. It gives Lace some good characterization. This is also the highest ranking Act 2 boss. Number 6, Seth. Seth was designed by a now sadly passed Hollow Knight fan with cancer, so I'm required to give it praise or else nobody will get mad because nobody watches me. But in all seriousness, Seth is one of the best 1v1 sword duels in the game. Seth has a great moveset, and while he's not super fast, he manages to be a constant threat. The music here does some heavy carrying, but the vibe of the fight is also pretty good. If I had to give one complaint, it's that Seth should have kept his little moss thing around his shoulders. It looked good. Why did he take it off? Number 5, Scarsinger Carmelita. Now, we have the last of the old hearts, Scarsinger Carmelita. Carmelita is a very difficult fight, easily being the most difficult old heart. Carmelita has banger music, a great fight, and is in general one of the best bosses in the game. But a best boss. The enemy gauntlet, before you fight her, is not part of the boss, but it is still counted. Without the gauntlet, Carmelita would still be ranked the same, but it does count. Number 4, Tormented Trobio. Trobio is now emo, and this is somehow one of the best bosses in the game. It's basically Trobio, but oh my god, there's so much going on. It's chaotic, bright, dramatic, and incredibly fun. All of his attacks from the original are here, just with more explosions. His tornado leaves damaging glitter bursts, his bombs shoot in 4 directions, and his firework is massive. Not a very complex fight, but a damn fun one.
S tier. The top of the top. Two from the first act and one from the third act. These three bosses are easily my favorite in all of Silksong, and some of my favorite bosses in general. Literally no complaints from here on out. Let's go. Number 3, Last Judge. Phantom could never. Last Judge is such a great fight. Most of their attacks are huge, but fun to work around. The music is one of the best. Both the judge and the background look great, and the Last Judge is easily one of the most intimidating bosses. The biggest compliment a boss can receive is feeling like a heart pounding dance, and the Last Judge is a definition of that. All of this is capped off by an explosion, making a dramatic and exciting end to Act 1. Number 2, Widow. Well, here's the other end of my controversial take from earlier. I really, really, really like Widow. Her fight is fast, and a big difficulty jump during Act 1. The bells are great projectiles that require awareness to get around. The music is literally my favorite track in the game, and Widow has a ton of story impact as by defeating her, you get the Needle-In and free Bellheart. First Sinner is a great boss, but in my humble and entirely correct and irrefutable opinion, Widow is better.
Number 1, Lost Lace. Wow, holy basic pick. Oh well, it's not my fault that Lost Lace is so good. Lost Lace has great music, great attacks. The arena and Lost Lace herself look great, and it is the singular most difficult fight in the game. Singular to the other lost boss oh so long ago, this fight has a decent amount of emotional value. However, unlike that fight, the void projectiles actually work with Lace's base moveset, now sped up to be an even faster and more heart-pounding fight. To cap it all off, Lost Lace ends Act 3, and with it, the game. And really, a great end to a great game can't be beat. Thank you for watching. Even if you skipped around to the bosses you were interested in, I'm glad that you listened to me yapping and put up with my probably awful opinions. Again, if you disagree with me, I highly encourage you to make your own ranking of the bosses, instead of just telling me I'm wrong in the comments. With that, I say goodbye and leave you to anticipate the area ranking that I partially spoiled in the Pinstress segment. Oops.